everyone, this is Crystal, and today I'm working in my creativity journal. This is week 7, and this week was a little bit different for me. So I was actually on vacation the first 2 days of this week. Valentine's Day was on this Friday. It was a bit of an off week, so I only ended up having one photo to share for this week. So then I thought about what I could do to kind of fill out the rest of the spread. I definitely didn't want to just skip the week. I wanted to include it. So I turned to this is, I don't know what you call it. This is where I take notes while I'm reading books. I was reading Embrace Your Weird at this point. I had a few quotes from that book I thought I could include in here that were about creativity. I thought they fit really well. So I decided to do that. And I also decided to just grab some random things from my stash. So I have the 6x6 pad from Let Your Heart Decide from Pinkfish Studio, or at least what's left of it. I have used some of this. I also have the stickers from Let Your Heart Decide. Again, I've used some of them, but there are lots still there. I have some heart stickers from the mix number 2, also from Pinkfish Studio. And I have this stamp set, the Apollo Alpha outline from Feed Your Craft, and a couple rolls of washi that I thought went well with those supplies. I also pulled out a few punches just to make things a bit more interesting. I thought these might come in handy. So that's what I'm planning to use. So I'm gonna do probably a large quote on this side, and then maybe another smaller quote on the other, and then of course my photo in the journaling that I have to go with that. So that's my plan. I'm gonna try and make it work. I'm gonna put you on fast forward and get started. So I'm going to start by taking my pages out of the binder I have them in. That's a Heidi Swapp Storyline album, an 8.5 by 11 album, and I'm going to lay them out on the table just so that it's easier to work with them and start going through the 6x6 paper pad that I've chosen. And I pretty quickly realized that there are papers missing from this that I know I still have. So I'm going to go away for a few minutes and look through my stash and find the papers that used to be in this pad and somehow got put somewhere else. But I do find them, and that gives me a few more options to work with. So here they are. I really wanted that heart paper, and then I don't end up actually using it on my spread. But that was the one that I knew I still had, and was surprised not to find in that pad. So once I have some of the papers kind of narrowed down a little bit, I can start playing around with my spread. And the first thing I'm going to do is stamp out one of the quotes. And it's not actually a quote, and not a direct quote from the book. The book is Embrace Your Weird by Felicia Day. This was just kind of the sentiment towards the end of the book, and that's what I'm going to end up stamping out. So I'm using the outline stamp from Feed Your Craft, and I'm starting in the center of the words and working my way out so that I can try and center the words on this 6x6 piece of paper. I don't do a perfect job. It definitely ends up looking very imperfect. It's a bit wonky, and not all of the letters stamped out perfectly either. I do have this sped up quite a bit, so I was taking my time and trying to do a good job of stamping, and it still just didn't turn out quite like I had hoped, but that's okay. I decided to just go with it, and then I started kind of intentionally making things a little bit wonky to kind of cover up the fact that they were all kind of sliding down the page to the right. Okay, so while I do this, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the notebook that I had referenced earlier. So that's actually a notebook from Webster's Pages. It's something I purchased, actually I think it came in a warehouse box a couple years ago. I think I got a few of them, and I've been using this one to document notes while I read for maybe a year and a half or so, and it's something that I do all the time. It's a habit I picked up in college when I was a literature major. I had to take lots of notes while I was reading, and now I find it hard not to take notes while I read a book. So that's what I use it for. I also take notes whenever there's a podcast that I find particularly inspiring, or even a blog post. I'll take notes in that, and so I treat it kind of like a commonplace book, but not a decorated one, not a pretty one. It's literally just handwritten notes. I do make sure that I date each one of them, but other than that, it's just notes, and it's something that I've done for a long time. This is this is just one of many notebooks I have like this. And this is the first time I've made an effort to keep it all in one notebook and fill up that notebook before moving on to another pretty notebook. So I'm trying to do better about that. But yeah, that's what that notebook is, and that's what I'll refer to when I actually type out the quotes later on. Right now, I'm just putting down some washi tape before I adhere this quote to the page. You may have seen me trim it down a little bit so that it fit just across those 3 columns on the left-hand side there. And then I'm just looking for a few little embellishments to add to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm going to add that label at the bottom, and that's where I'm going to put the title and author of the book that I'm quoting. And I'm just going to handwrite that. And I also want to work on the title for the entire spread. So I need to add week 7 somewhere, and I definitely want to add the month somewhere. Since I didn't add the month last week, I definitely want to make sure that I get that added to this page. So there were these tiny little alphas in that sticker sheet from Pink Fish Studio, and I decided to use those, and it was then that I remembered why I had not used this sticker sheet in a long time. It's not cut properly, so things do not come off easily. Some of them come off with the backing paper, and some of them are completely stuck together. So it's not exactly easy to work with. You can see right now I pulled off the first 7 and it tore, and then I tried the other 7 that was on the sheet, and it didn't come off with the sticky paper. Like, it tore off just the top part of it, so I had to try and use my tape runner to glue it down, and it was just peeling off more of the backing. Finally I got it, but it was a bit of a hassle to deal with. So yeah, that's making me want to just get these stickers used up and not keep them in my stash anymore. So I decided to add a little piece of washi tape down where I'm adding that little label, and that just kind of helped it seem a little bit more grounded. It gave it somewhere to live. And then I added that label with the week number at the top. I'm kind of all over the place. Just as ideas come to me, I'm kind of working on that, and then trying different things as other ideas come to me. So that's kind of where my brain is at this moment. Right now I'm spelling out February with the other alphas that were in this sticker sheet. There was a black alpha and then this kind of dark teal green alpha. And I'm going to add that above the label where I've added the week number. But it just felt like it was floating up there a little bit, so I decided to add something, some paper to kind of, again, give it somewhere to live. So I end up going with this kind of orangey one, and I'm just using my Thickers alignment tool to measure out how wide to cut the paper. And then I'm just going to cut a little strip and tear off the end so it looks a little bit ragged, and then adhere that down, and then I can add my February title onto that. You can see I left it hang off the edge. I'm just going to trim that off with a scissors so that it's even with the edge of the page, and then I can move on. So I added this little sticker that says FYI. And I really like it, and I want to keep it there, but I didn't like the fact that the white of the sticker was up against the white of the page. So I'm going to add another circle behind it. So I just grabbed a circle punch and that pink kind of grid paper, and I'm going to add that behind that circle, and that's going, or that sticker, and it's going to help that stand out a bit better and also add a bit more color there. And I'm not going to do my journaling for this spread on camera just because I had quite a bit to write out and I thought it would take too long. But I did add some journaling lines just to make sure that I left myself space, that I didn't accidentally fill that in with embellishments and not give myself somewhere to journal. So I want to fill in the kind of boxes on the left-hand side of the page with something. So I'm just looking through some papers to try and find one that will work. And I really like this blue one, so I'm going to cut it down. And I had originally thought I would use my notebook edge punch to kind of give it some texture to the edge of this paper, but I totally forgot and went ahead and stuck it down, and then there was no getting it back up. So instead, I'm going to actually punch a different paper, that coordinating pink paper, and give it a notebook edge. instead and then add it just as a layer on top. So I'm still going to be able to get that texture I was hoping to get, and it's actually going to add a bit more color to this kind of area of the page as well. So it actually worked out pretty well. I'm just using that notebook edge on the very edge of that paper, and then I'm going to use my trimmer just to cut the thinnest little strip of that off, and so I can add it to the side of that blue circle paper. I'm also adding a sticker from that sticker set from Let Your Heart Decide that says Dreamer, and I'm just lining it up there in the center of the pink paper before adding it to the blue paper. And I want to add one more sticker, so I'm looking through these phrase stickers at the top of this page, and I find one that I think will work. And I'm going to add it below Dreamer, kind of tucking it under some of the descenders in this word, just to make it look like it is nestled in there. And then that's going to be pretty much it for that part of the page. I do want to fill in that blank spot between my title and that blue paper, so I grabbed those puffy hearts, and I'm going to add just a little grouping of 3 of those in that spot. And then again, off camera later, I will come back and do my doodly thing. You knew that was coming. I can't seem to do a page in this album without adding some kind of doodles, so those will come at the end. So now I can move on to working on the right hand side of this page. So I went ahead and glued down my photo since I know that's going to go there, and I know I'm not going to add anything underneath it. And then I'm going to use this little offcut from the paper I used to stamp the quote on and add it to the bottom part of this page. I did use my edge puncher again to add some texture, and then I'm going to repeat the same washi that I did above my quote. So use that hexagon washi, which is from One Canoe 2, and then that gold scalloped edge washi, which is, I think, Doodlebug design. I'm pretty sure it came in a hip kit quite a while ago. And that's just going to echo that same pattern on the left-hand side. I'm going to actually end up adding that to the top of the page too, so that will give me a visual triangle of those 2 elements. Right now I'm filling in the box next to my photo just with some paper, and I've added a little sticker there as well that says today, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some lines for my journaling. So that today sticker has a label, actually 2 spots to add some kind of date or title, and I almost forgot to add something at the very end before I took the photos off camera. I actually just grabbed a stamp from Citrus Twist Kits that I had laying around and stamped a couple phrases in those boxes just to fill them in. But you won't see that until the end photos. So my journaling lines are in place. I do want to add a couple more quotes in this blank space off to the right side of this page. So I'm looking for some place for them to live. I want there to be a bit more color. I don't want to just write them out directly onto the page without adding something behind it. So I decided to use this kind of orangey, yellowy paper, and I'm just cutting it down so that it fits in those 2 columns. And then I remembered I had this book paper in the 6x6 pad, and since this these are quotes from a book, I thought that would be perfect to add a little strip of that across the top, so it just kind of looks like a single line of books. It kind of actually has the look of washi in the end, but it's just a little strip of that paper that I cut to fit across those 2 columns, and then I'm going to adhere the yellow paper beneath that, and that is where the other quotes from this book are going to live. And I again do that off camera. I decided to type them, so I just typed them up on my computer and printed them out, and then did little strips of journaling to add a couple more quotes from that book. So I also really want to add a few of these little squares to the page. This is again from that 6x6 pad from Pinkfish Studio, and there are little blocks with kind of quotes in them and little washi strips printed on the paper that it looks like they're holding them onto the paper. And a lot of the quotes were really relevant to this spread or to this album. So I wanted to include them. I'm just looking through them and picking out a few of them. I actually end up using 4, which is a bit unusual for me. I normally try to do things in 3s, but there were 4 of them that I thought really worked, and it also helped fill in a few blank spaces on the page. So I decided just to go with it. It's okay to break your rules sometimes, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just adding them. It felt right to just add all 4 of them to the page, so that's what I'm going to do. And once I get those adhered, I think there's just a couple more things I need to do. I want to add a few more of those hearts to the right-hand side just to echo that from the left-hand side. Again, doing groupings of 3s in the same colors as I used on the left-hand side. And again, off camera, I will go in and add some doodles to each of these clusters. And then there's a little bit more blank space there that I want to fill in. So I'm going to go back to that sticker sheet and find another one. It says read this, I believe. But again, it was a little bit too small. So I'm going to repeat that same idea and add the sticker to a circle from that same pink grid paper and add that to the bottom corner of my journaling. And that kind of helps fill in all of that blank space. And then the last thing I'm going to do is add some washi to the top left-hand side of the page. Again, the same 2 washi's in the same order, and then I will add one more little sticker to the top of that just to add a little bit something extra. And then that is going to be it for this spread. Like I said, I do all of my journaling and adding the quotes off camera, so you'll see those in just a second in the close-up photos. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing this spread come together. If you are not familiar with this album of mine, I will link all the other videos that I have done working in this album in the description box below. I will also link any of these supplies I can find that are still available in case you're curious about what I've used. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all back here soon.